Hey guys, it's Andreas from the North Seal Project, and I'm here today with Martin and Devin. And we wanted to do this Q&A video for you guys because we've been getting quite a few questions and comments underneath our last couple of videos. And yeah, I'm gonna start off with a couple of comments. I'm gonna read them out, and Devin and Martin are gonna do their best to answer all of them. Nobody's going to be allowed to do this. You're raising money for a suicide mission. Yes, because you think that the power that is hiding this will allow you to do such a thing. After they will collect the money, you won't hear from them anymore. And yeah, sounds great. Let's just hope it doesn't turn into the North Steel Project, instead taking your money, then coming up with an excuse later as to why the mission can't take place, or just flat out disappear on us. And the last comment, this is not fair to us. You're collecting our money to go by yourself. We're supposed to go all together with Quasi-Luminous. We don't have to pay anything. Why do you want our money now? So these are all questions that are quite similar. So go ahead, guys, and what's your opinion?
So the Arctic is the least protected area on Earth, specifically this deep Arctic region we're talking about. A lot of people actually don't know this. There are no international agreements, no treaties. There is no such thing as the Arctic Treaty. And we have to ask, why is this? The Antarctic ice wall is surrounded by consistent military presence. We have the Antarctic Treaty. We have a whole host of other international agreements. And this is because the military-industrial complex is allowed around the ice wall, but they have no domain over this sacred region, over the territory around Eden. So like you were saying in our last call, Martin, you can't protect something you have no domain over. And like I've been saying, the divinities live at the center where this magnetic toroidal field emerges from and originates. The North Pole is the cradle. When you get out to the ice wall, this magnetic field is not as prominent, and you are furthest away from the cradle, from the source. And therefore, it is the home of the asuras, of the demons. Perhaps there's cities there or lands beyond. That's not our focus. Our focus is the center. And all of our research points to there is nobody stopping us, nor will they. Now, it makes no sense to me that the elite would wait until we're flying in an airplane or near Eden to kill us off or interfere. That is way more resources being spent when it would be much easier, much more simple to, I don't know, take us out now, manipulate us, try to have us join them. Now, there's a spiritual element to this we mustn't forget. This is not a subject of a physical place. It's not only a physical journey. Higher pursuits, such as getting or exploring the Garden of Eden, cannot be tampered with because it's a pursuit which is out of these so-called demons' domain. Now, about the money. Originally, we started this project 2 months ago. And we had planned to go quietly, to explore by ourselves, but something did not feel right. And we came to the conclusion, why don't we start a campaign? Why don't we make this incredibly public, crowdfund, get everybody on board? So what we're doing with this crowdfunder is making it easier that we can broadcast everything we need to, what we can, to the public, and so we can spend more time sharing our findings and anything else we come across from now up until July 2018. Whether we raise our 100K goal or not, the North Seal Project is going, and we are 100% committed. Now, we have not taken any malicious action whatsoever to insinuate that we're here for the money or something like that. I'm informing you guys. I've been researching this for years and years and years. I've been public with this for at least the past 10 months, and I'm a man of my word. I've been saying for months, I am taking an initial journey in 2018, and what this has been translated into is the North Seal Project. This is something we feel in our hearts. So people want to accuse us of having a money scheme or something like that. They're entitled to, but this is about truth, and this is about love.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you've just said, Devin. You know, for those of us in the conscious community, those of us who call ourselves truthers, those of us searching for answers, we all know that there's a spiritual element to this. This is not just coincidence, you know, the flat earth awakening, all this truth that's coming out about corrupt governments, chemtrails, everything. There is an element of spirituality. This is happening by divine order, right? It's obvious. You don't need to be a genius to figure that out. As such, the powers that be, so to speak, they recognize this, they know this. Eden, or the knowledge of where it is, or its existence, the flat earth, is not something that just popped up. It's not new. Eden has always been there. The earth has always been flat. It's not new information. What's changed is we are changing. We, the people, we're waking up to this information. And this is happening, again, for a reason. We're meant to be waking up to this now. We're meant to find Eden now. Those of us who are meant to be returning at this point are meant to return now. The powers that be know this, and they cannot stop it because it's beyond them. This is why no one is stopping people from talking about flat earth on social media. It's being allowed to happen. No one's being attacked by the government. In fact, they're ignoring it. They're pretending like nothing's happening. Yeah, the media, it's incredible to believe that there are now millions of people talking about the flat earth and other conspiracy theories, I guess, or truths. And the governments are not saying anything at all about this. There's not one official statement that's been made by a top government organization. And there's a reason for this. And there's a climax to this. And we think that the climax is Eden. The whole lie about the earth being a spinning ball is to hide the Garden of Eden. Now, those of us who are waking up to this and who have found this, we are doing our best to try and understand it. We are doing our best to try and return to the sacred land, to these places. We are not going to be stopped. In fact, I am pretty sure that the powers that be want those of us who are meant to be returning to quietly go. They're encouraging us to spread this truth quietly as possible, if they can help it. And they want us to leave. So, if people are worried about whether we're going to make it or not, I am 100% sure that we, certainly, the 5 of us on this initial journey, are going to make it. We're going to get there. We're going to pave the way. And we're going to make it. As far as the money thing is concerned, like Devin said, initially, we were going to do this on our own. That was the plan. We got together, we said, how are we going to find this place? We had all done research. We know where this place is. We know what's there. And we felt drawn to go there. But after, like Devin said, after much discussion, we decided that if we did this secretly and quietly, we're no different to the powers that be that do things in secret. And we're truthers. And part of being a truther is sharing knowledge and sharing information. This is the age we're in. We're in the age of openness. We're in the age of truth, and we're in the age of love. That's the age we're in. And we recognize this. So in that spirit, we decided to share this journey with the world. Now, part of that sharing this journey is we still live in a matrix. Things still need to be paid for. If we want to live stream this journey, we need equipment. If we want to be able to openly share what we're doing, we need the resources to do it. If we were to do what we were planning to do initially, we'd simply buy tickets to Greenland quietly, right? We'd get a chartered plane, a cheap chartered plane, up to the north of Greenland, and we'd make our way into Eden fairly cheaply on our own, which was the original plan. But if we want to stream it, and we want to share it, and we want to be open about it, and share this journey with other people, then it's going to cost money. Now, either way, like Devin said, whether we raise these funds or not, we are going to Eden July next year. Whether people choose to believe this or not, that's fine. It doesn't make a difference to us. Those who are aligned to our journey will recognize it, and these are the people that we are appealing to. Whatever help you can, it doesn't have to be financial, we'd appreciate.
Appreciate all.
This is a little bit different. This person is asking, you know what gets me? Is how in the hell did they have any idea whatsoever as to the shape of any of the continents? How could they have known? So what's your thoughts?
So, our model is based off of a few things. One is Asian mythology. In Tibetan mythology, in Indian mythology, Chinese mythology, Japanese mythology. Mount Meru is the cosmic pillar at the center of the universe. And around it is 4 continents, 4 island continents. Now, they're usually called by a variety of names, but that 4-continent system remains in place. Now, I knew this before we actually uncovered maps. A few weeks ago, we stumbled upon ancient maps from the 1300s to the 1600s, and all of them showed what appears to be that same 4-continent system at the Arctic, at the center. Mercator is most well known for this. He has a map called Of the Northern Lands, and instead of Mount Meru at the center, he called it the Rupes Nigra, which was a giant magnetic stone at the center of an indrawing sea, where the 4 rivers that divide this landmass originate from. It wasn't just one map. It was 10, 20, 30 maps showed this exact landmass. And like we've been saying, there is complete evidence to show that this landmass was suddenly removed. And back then, they didn't have Photoshop. So their techniques were a little sloppier. So they couldn't just remove this landmass. They also removed parts of Canada and parts of Greenland and Russia. This is also around the same time when the globe deception was really being ramped up. So, as you were saying, Martin, there was no coincidence that hiding the Garden of Eden coincides with making the masses believe that we live on a spinning globe.
Absolutely, yes. It would be extremely naive to assume that all the ancient cultures, the Japanese, the Chinese, the Asians, the Nordics, the Egyptians, religions, the Bible, all of them randomly describe a similar 4-island continent at the north, divided by 4 rivers. It can't be coincidence. If 1 or 2 of them were saying this, you might say, it's a guess. But pretty much every single crevice of mythology, of folklore, of legend, of text, talks about this place in great detail, particularly Asian mythology, extreme detail. So we can't ignore this. It would be really, really naive to ignore it. As far as saying, well, what if they were wrong and maybe they didn't have the technology or the knowledge to know for sure because they might have been primitive? Again, that is naive. That's to assume that the same people or the same civilizations that built beautiful structures like the pyramids in Egypt, the pyramids in South America and in Americas, pyramids and structures that we cannot replicate today with our technology, didn't know where they were. That is naive. Of course they did. After all, what is history? History is his story. You know, we don't know how much of what we've been told is truth. And anyone who's a truther knows this by now. So this is not even a debate for those who are in the conscious community. We all know that we've been lied to about pretty much everything, our history, and we don't know how far back these lies go. So all we can do is look at the history, look at the evidence, look at the mythology, look at religions, look at everything. I think Santos Bonacci calls it syncretism, and connect the dots. And if a pattern emerges over and over again, you have to come to the conclusion that there must be some truth in it. And that's how we always try to approach these things.
Exactly. A common assumption, which has actually been pressed upon many of the Asians, is that this four-continent system does exist. However, we live right now on the southern island, on Jambudvipa. And this creates a very confusing situation. This makes no sense, and it creates cognitive dissonance, where you start to see the four continents as merely mythological, as having no fact. Now, we've theorized that the time that all of these ancient texts were written was when mankind still existed in this four-continent system. And perhaps they were writing from the southern continent, from Jambudvipa. And therefore, their world was the southern continent.
Yeah, I think everything changed for us when we started looking at things from that perspective. When we said, let's read all these texts as if we are in Eden. So let's see what the Nordics say about Midgard. Let's read what the Vedics say about Shambhala. Let's read what the Greeks say about Hyperborea, as if we are in these places. And the moment we did that, everything changed. It became apparent that these texts were all written from the perspective of someone within these lands. And everything becomes clear after that.
Awesome, guys. Well, there's another comment that ties into the model. So if Olaf Janssen went beyond the North Pole, that doesn't kind of work on that model. Maybe you can explain that a little bit.
Yeah, actually, it actually ties in. It links more clearly, actually, than the Hollow Earth. If you think about it, that crater continent is a mix of the Hollow Earth theory and the flat Earth land at the North theory. So if you'd imagine Olaf Janssen and Admiral Byrd getting into a crater underneath the cloud, they would have thought they were going into Hollow Earth if they thought they lived on a ball. It only makes sense. If we thought we lived on a ball and we headed up north, and all of a sudden we're getting into a crater of some sort, and there's some sort of darkness as we're descending into this crater, and there's a cloud above us, naturally, your instinct is to assume you're inside the earth.
Yes.
But it's obvious that that is not the case. And when we realized the earth was flat, the hollow earth, for me particularly, was very confusing, because I was convinced that there must be something in it. All these accounts of the hollow earth couldn't have just been made up. Like Admiral Byrd is a respectable man. You know, he couldn't have just made that up. So when we came across the whole crater at the center, it was a eureka moment for us, because it tied in the hollow earth theory and the hidden lands at the north.
Yes, and I take full responsibility for not being clear in the past on what the center exactly was. And the truth is, I did not fully know. I knew Mount Meru was there. I knew there was some type of opening leading into different lands, but it wasn't until we got all of our minds together and we started fleshing this out. It became more and more reality. Now, in the Smoky God, Olaf and his father experienced complete darkness and disarray before they end up in this sacred land. Now, what this can be interpreted as is they went into the opening. They experienced a change in frequency and density, along with being under the cloud, which covers Eden, which sits the black sun underneath. It was only after they successfully had dropped down into the opening, they merged with that frequency, and now they were able to perceive these lands.
Absolutely. And I urge anyone who hasn't read Olaf Janssen's Smoky God to please read it, because they do a very good job of describing in detail, you know, every single instant of that journey, from the time when they saw the cloud or the darkness, what he called the dark mist, to entering into the dark mist, which is what they thought they were now entering into Hollow Earth, to coming out of the dark mist and seeing a second sun, a smaller bronze colored sun within the Hollow Earth, which we now know is the sun underneath the cloud. So they explain it really well in the book. So please read the book. I think there's an ebook, isn't there, on YouTube?
Yes, there's a multitude of free audiobooks, and if you just search Olaf Janssen PDF on Google, there's a bunch of results.
Awesome. So there's enough resources out there for every single one of you to kind of verify what Devin and Martin have just been saying, and I highly encourage everyone to do that if you're really interested.
And I would like to add, in past videos, we have quoted everything we are saying. We're taking excerpts of books, and we're describing which books, which authors we're getting this information from, which mythologies as well. So do not take our words for it. Do some searches yourself. Do some in-depth research. And I think you'll be quite surprised that with this push we're giving you, you will come to the exact same conclusions as we are.
Exactly. And someone else commented, interesting, makes me think when religions talk about going up into heaven, they might actually mean not going to the sky, but heading north. And another person said, God banished humans from Eden.
This comment is under the assumption that if there is a higher force, then he or she is beyond our reach. He is an external deity or entity that we must gain approval from. Now, we are all fragments of God. We all contain this creative spark within us, within our heart. The heart is the seat of the soul, and this is why if you look at the electromagnetic field of the heart, this is where our aura is coming out from. We banished ourselves from Eden. Eden does not contain duality. It is a unified continent. It is a unified peoples. So if one were to choose to use this creative spark to experiment with other modes of consciousness, such as duality, anger, rage, materialism, then one would have to leave Eden. In our opinion, exactly what happened. The first exodus from Eden was willful, and it was based on we wanted to experiment with all of these types of creation, which we essentially would not be allowed to in this sacred land. So we chose to banish ourselves.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. You know, with regards to the first statement, where the gentleman or the lady says, what was the first question,
He was,
Andreas?
he was
Can you just
basically
repeat
saying that it makes them think that religions actually talk about going up into heaven rather means going up north.
I think that's a fantastic observation. That is, yes, I totally agree with that. I think a lot of knowledge has been confused and lost over the ages, and people have come to the conclusion during the Dark Ages that we need to go up, and they've confused up as in up, but I think up actually means up north. We need to go north. So I think that's a fantastic observation. With regards to the second question, Devin is 100% right. You know, we are all collectively God. We took every bit of consciousness in existence and put it into one big ball of consciousness. That is what God is. And we are all experiencing life separate from the whole. So this notion that there is some being sitting in a cloud somewhere or in another world, the bowl of popcorn and a Diet Coke watching over us, is just, you know, it just doesn't make sense. I think it's far from the truth. We are collectively God. We banished ourselves from the Garden of Eden, like Devin said, so we could experience duality. And we think everything is cyclical. Just like we sleep and wake up, just like night and day, up and down, in and out, there is duality everywhere around us. So consciousness is no different. Over the last few thousand years, we've been asleep. We've been in the Dark Ages. It's been the night of humanity. We're now starting to awaken. This is what the shift is. People say, oh, there's an awakening happening. Yes, literally, there is an awakening happening. We're waking up. And part of this waking up is rediscovering truth. And the biggest of all those truths is going home, going back into the garden that we banished ourselves from during the Dark Ages while we were hibernating. We're now coming out of hibernation and going back home. Those of us who are being drawn to do that.
Yes, brother. To supplement that, these outer lands, this energy extraction matrix, has been incredibly useful and necessary for our growth. Not a malevolent system. It's here to rub the aspects of consciousness that we hopefully will never want to replicate in our face. And this is what they've done. We walk outside, we go to any store, we talk to most strangers. Materialist reductionism is the name of the game. And this should be a motivator, a spark. Ask yourself, who am I? Why am I here? What is life's purpose?
Yes.
Now, at the same time, not everybody should come back to Eden because there is still much growth to be done. These outer lands still offer a lot of experiences and a lot of learning opportunities. So this is why we do see a rift right now between those who we call awake and those who are choosing to stay asleep. It doesn't make it bad. It does not make it wrong. And here I must stress, we have been marketed rebelling in order to change the system. We've been told, protest, get out in the street, rah, rah, rah. And this is, in fact, the opposite move we should be making if we are truly to align with truth. It's an inward process. We have to go inward. What patterns have I held on from this matrix, which to disharmonious realities and situations? I find it that in descriptions of heaven or Zion, we have cities paved with gold and singing choruses of angels everywhere. Now, this sounds quite similar to some of the stories of Eden. There's gold everywhere, lining the streets, lining the buildings. Music, there's temples for music. There are great whirling choruses of angels who sing. This is exactly what is talked about in the Smoky God of resurrection, in Paradise Found. So it's very possible that up pointers on our compasses.
Yes, absolutely. I think, Devin, it's the Buddhists who say that life is a school. Is it the Buddhists who say life is a school, and we're here to remember who we are? I don't know if you can. Yeah, I think it's the Buddhists.
Yes.
And I think that is the best explanation for the meaning of life. What is the meaning of life? Why are we here? What is the point of all of this? And it's quite obvious. We're here to learn, to grow, and to move on. Now, some will learn quickly and grow quickly, and they have to move on. They have to graduate. And this is where we are. We're now reaching that point of graduation. Graduation day is approaching. Some will graduate, and they have to move on to the next level of experience, which is the Garden of Eden. Others are not yet ready to graduate. It doesn't make them lesser beings or less special. It just means it's not their time. And staying here is not a bad thing. So if you're not being called to Eden, if this whole Eden stuff and lands in the north scares you, or you don't feel comfortable about it, or you don't believe it and you think it's just absolute rubbish, it's not your journey.
Awesome, Martin. Well said. And now that you mentioned Buddhist monks, there are two comments that I would like to go over. It's try going through the Himalayas. I hear there's a tunnel that goes to the inner earth there, may be easier and financially less costly. And then someone else said Tibet. That is where the entrance to Shambhala is said to be. Why don't you guys mention that? So what are your thoughts?
We don't mention it because this network of subterranean realms and cities has absolutely no relation to the center land. So indeed, there are magnificent worlds and cities and technologies underground, but these are of the domain of the elites. It's been said that the elites tried to replicate their own version of Shambhala underground. And keep in mind, this is where all of the deep military underground bases are. Is there any coincidence? If these networks of tunnels and cities were of supreme divinity, the military-industrial complex would have no domain under there and they would not be allowed. So indeed, I'm sure in Tibet, in the Himalayas, in the pyramids of Giza even, there are entrances to fantastic lands, probably way more advanced than we can even speculate. But important. They are not the cradle like Eden.
Yeah, two very different things. This revelation came to us about 3 months ago, 4 months ago, for me certainly, that there's a difference between hollow earth and inner earth. So there's the underworld, which are these tunnels Devin is talking about, and then there's the hollow earth, which is the crater and continent at the center. They're two very, very different things. So we're not going to the underworld, to these tunnels or these places in these, whatever they are. We are going to the sacred lands at the north, the crater continent, which is a depression at the North Pole. And that is our focus. And that is where all the mythology, where all the religions point to. They don't reference, secret tunnels or portals anywhere else. They simply tell you, head north, follow your compass. That's what we're doing. It's really simple.
And if we are to look at many depictions of Mount Meru, it bridges not only the heavens, but all of the hellish realms underneath. Now, if we are truly microcosms of the macrocosm, and this earth plane is the heart, then this would mean any subterranean realms beneath it, if you go far enough, would not correlate with the heart chakra or any of the upper spiritually driven chakras, but the lower chakras, the animalistic chakras, the ones that correlate with survival, power, greed, and sex. So to these archonic families, perhaps it is a sort of paradise down there. But those who have completely activated the green ray of their heart, moving upwards towards their crown, they would not be happy in what you're saying, Martin, is inner earth.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next comment. Someone is kind of confused about the black sun. Let me read it out for you. This video just confused me. How is the black sun within flat earth? And how is the black sun in the middle of flat earth?
This comment appears to be under the assumption that we're living on what I was calling the division symbol. So we are on the flat plane, the white sun is above us, and at the center, through the opening or portal, we make an interdimensional flip-flop where we are now illuminated by the black sun. I did used to say that, and I want to publicly say I am sorry for misleading anybody. I was going off of what I assumed at the time, and we have since corrected this idea. Now, when we stopped looking at texts and our research with this bias, it became quite clear. The black sun is at the center, illuminating these 4 continents. So I know it's quite confusing. I was getting that idea at the time from Quasi-Luminous, whom I have since disassociated myself with. So I promise that there is no more confusion in this area.
Yeah, I think as far as the black sun of intent or the black sun at the north goes, I don't think any of us can stand here and say with absolute confidence what it is, whether it's revolving or not, how big it is, its movements, its cycles. We don't know for sure right now with our level of consciousness. So what we can do is we can look within, because we are all God, asleep. All the answers are within us. They say we're in the age of remembrance. So we have to try and remember. This is what the Buddhist monks do when they meditate. They're trying to seek within and trying to remember who they are and where they are. So this is one of the many practices that we are doing behind the scenes. We are following our intuition, we're meditating, we're seeking for wisdom from within. So I can only answer that question from my own perspective. And if it resonates with many people, then it's probably close-ish to the truth. And we all have little pieces to this puzzle. So whatever I add to it, someone else will add their piece, and someone else will add their piece, and the truth will become more apparent. So to answer the question, we think that the black sun of intent probably does revolve, just like the white sun above us. Everything is in motion. All the celestial bodies are in motion. So there's no reason why the sun in Eden would not be in motion, just like the other celestial bodies, the stars and all the other suns. We are stationary, obviously. We also think that during the Dark Ages, the black sun of intent descends, because it's nighttime. So it descends into Eden during the Dark Ages, and we're in the dark on the outside. And as we get closer to the Golden Age, it starts to rise and come out of Eden and wake us up. This is what is causing this awakening. It's this black sun of intent that is rising out of Eden. A lot of conspiracy theorists or truthists talk about a planet called, even science, mainstream science, talks about the hidden planet, Planet X, Planet Nibiru. It's quite obvious. If you look at it from this perspective, they're probably talking about the black sun of intent. So they're saying Planet X will be returning soon, Planet Nibiru will be coming back to Earth. We think it's the black sun of intent that is rising out of the Garden of Eden. This is Nibiru, and this is Planet X.
And it's quite possible that the fear-mongering involving Planet X has been strategic conditioning. So if we're correct, and the black sun is rising for all of the world to see, it will appear to many as a foreign, alien, celestial body, as an invader planet. Now, Planet X, is a very interesting title, because X, as I've been saying, marks the spot. Why does X mark the spot? Because from an aerial view, the four converging rivers which divide this continent makes an X. Coincidence? Who knows?
So yeah, guys, we are getting quite a few comments of people asking to come along on the journey or be able to join the North Seal project. So what are your thoughts or comments on this?
We are paving the way. We are paving the way to Eden. That is the whole goal of this project. We're not here to save ourselves, and we're definitely not raising money to take it all and just leave these outer lands. We actually hope, if we raise enough, we hope to be able to fund other groups in order for this to happen. We have courage and the determination in our hearts. And if other groups popped up, even right now, we would be so happy. We would be ecstatic, because the more the merrier. That is how we're looking at it. This is not a selfish project, and like we said earlier, if we were only concerned about ourselves, we would have already left.
Absolutely, yes. And again, this is an initial journey, like you've been saying, Devin, for the last 8 months. 2018 is the initial journey for us to go and scout or find a route into Eden. And we have every intention. Our intent is to go in, do whatever we need to do, come back out if we're allowed to, and collect those who are meant to be going in. Now, if there are people within the community who want to be part of this initial journey, like Devin is saying, we welcome it with full and open arms. We are happy to share whatever knowledge or wisdom or information or research that we have. And we are certainly happy to share whatever funds we have. Part of this fundraiser is also to help fund those who want to join smaller pods, so to speak. There are people within the community that we have spoken to who are planning on their own little journeys. They've not made it public yet, and they might not, but we know there are people who are planning their own little journeys, and we're happy to help in whatever way. So if we raise more than enough, which I think we definitely will, and there are people who are serious about making this journey, and they're genuine, and they're willing to do the work. This is the most important. We do not want to be helping people go on a suicide mission, as a lot of people are saying. This is not just about packing your bags onto a plane and off you go. You will not find this place if you're not prepared, spiritually and mentally. So that's part of doing the work. I meditate, sun gaze, and we all do in this group. We have to do these things. We have to be completely pure, spiritually and mentally. So we're trying to unplug ourselves from the matrix as much as we can. Obviously, we can't completely do it because that's just not possible. But we're doing our best, certainly, and our intent is in the right place. So whatever we're doing out of love, truth, and with the right intent. And that's what's going to get us into Eden.
The gates to Eden are open. They're not cracking open just for the North Seal Project.
Absolutely.
This information will only be more public, more available, and those who should be going back to the cradle will make it.
There is no military presence around the Garden of Eden. The claim that any sort of military protects this area is entirely untrue. Let me explain. Many people commonly confuse the Antarctica Treaty with the Arctic Treaty, but a quick search will show you that there is actually no such thing as the Arctic Treaty. In fact, there is no international agreement whatsoever protecting or maintaining any land in this deep Arctic region. Activities in Antarctica and its surrounding seas are governed by what's known as the Antarctic Treaty. It was signed in 1959 to govern this region, which we know to be a giant ice wall that surrounds our plane. 55 countries have participated in this treaty, meaning military from around the world are consistently, permanently set up around the ice wall. Each year, the Antarctic Treaty Consultative Meeting is held to keep this treaty going. On the contrary, there is no such thing as the Arctic Treaty. This is quite strange. If the official narrative that the Arctic, like the Antarctic, is simply a sheet of ice, then why does the Antarctic have to be protected? The simple answer is the military is not allowed at the North Pole. I refer to a quote by William F. Warren, who in Paradise Found, the Cradle of the Human Race at the North Pole, said the following: "The South Polar region is the location of demons and destructive divinities. A natural counterpart to this idea of a northern heaven would be a belief or impression that spiritual perils and evils were in the south, as the proper abode of demons. The north is the hemisphere of the gods, and the south of the asuras, or demons." Who are these demons Warren is referring to? Those who are in control, including the military-industrial complex. Let's not forget, we are not in a physical war, we are in a spiritual one. Those in the highest order of the military, government, those who keep this energy extraction matrix going, are of low-level consciousness. If Warren is correct, and based on the fact that Antarctica is so heavily protected, then this would mean the ice wall, or past the ice wall, is not a divine paradise of high consciousness of any sort, but a type of demonic utopia. This is shown in the etymology of Antarctica. Ant is a prefix meaning opposite or opposed to, so the Antarctic contains lands which are spiritually and energetically opposite of the Arctic, opposite of the Garden of Eden. In practically all ancient cosmology, the center of the Earth was where the party was at. This is an immovable fact. This flat plane is the result of a toroidal field emerging from the center. The center is the ultimate source of all magnetism, and therefore must contain the most dense, high-frequency energy. I've speculated in many of my videos that the magnetic mountain in Asian mythology, Mount Meru, or the Rupes Nigra, as it was known and mapped in the Middle Ages, is the source of this magnetism. Many flat earthers are quick to give their interest in the ice wall, believing that since so many are guarding it, that there must be something of value being guarded, but just the opposite is true. These lands at or beyond Antarctica are of value to these archonic forces, but they are not a supreme paradise like the center. Military presence in the Arctic is actually the most scarce than in any other part of the world. There are 3 military bases in the deep Arctic, and only one is specifically an air base. They are Canadian Forces Station Alert, Thule Air Base, and the Arctic Trefoil. None of them contain powerful weapons or missiles, and they generally are there to provide logistical support to outside groups. The Alert Base is in Alert, Canada, on the northeastern tip of Ellesmere Island. It's not an airbase, and because of it, does not house any actual military planes or interception equipment. However, they perform weather monitoring and search and rescue missions through the airline Air Greenland. They also provide support to independent and government Arctic researchers if contacted in advance. There are only 21 full-time military personnel stationed there, along with 32 civilians. Thule Air Base is an extension of the U.S. Air Force on the northwest side of Greenland. Thule's main project is something called the Ballistic Missile Early Warning System, designed to detect and track missiles launched against North America. Just to be clear, this is a detection system and does not contain any actual missiles. Thule is also home to one large tugboat, which is used for daily sightseeing tours of North Star Bay in the summertime. This tugboat in the colder months is used to help government and civilian ships when they get stuck in the ice or otherwise stranded in the Arctic Ocean. There are no efforts to consistently track or interfere with planes by Thule Air Base, and there are 0 armed planes. There are about 500 personnel stationed there. Finally, Arctic Trefoil is a Russian base in Franz Josef Land. Not much is known about what goes on here, but we know that there's no military planes or large-scale weapons, no air force. The only planes entering this region are periodic cargo planes, shipping and receiving supplies. There are about 150 personnel stationed there. I stress the lack of military air presence because the North Seal project will be going on a publicly funded aerial mission, meaning every detail from preparation to the journey will be recorded and shared with the public. Any concerns about being shot down is not realistic. If this reality was a battle of purely physical circumstances, then this information about the hidden Arctic land would have already been suppressed. But there's a spiritual element to this, a bigger picture that we must keep in mind. Some way or another, many of us are being called to go to the center. This is our destiny, and in the same vein, our destination. All these government archonic forces can do is manipulate, and that's not hard to see. The prison of this matrix is one based on consent. Nobody is forced into anything unless they play along with those illusions. Higher pursuits, such as rediscovering the Garden of Eden, cannot be tampered with. With such scant military presence in the North Polar region, it's clear who holds domain in and around these lands. Like William Warren says, the divinities live in the Arctic and the demons in the outer ice wall. So once again, there is no military presence around the Garden of Eden. This crater and those entering it are protected by higher astral forces. So to the center, to the ultimate source of magnetism we will explore, and nobody will stop us. I love you all.